Okay, so the first thing we've got to look at is taking the machine off the pallet without causing any damage to the digger. So we need to remove the digger from the machine. To do that, we just need to, there's instructions here on the carry beam. If you follow the instructions, okay, now we need to put the extension legs into the right position and fit them into the lowest setting. Okay, so now we're able to lift the machine up. You need to make sure your lifting equipment's capable of lifting 1,000 kilograms. So we can install the digger again now. Next thing is just down here. Need to take some of these arms out. And also locking plates. Okay, so now we fit the machine to the lower link arms on the tractor. Alright, so it's important that we use the top hole in the carry beam when the machine's fitted directly onto the back of the tractor. So I'm just going to wind these arms out to take all the slack out, this sideways slop out. It doesn't need to be tight, just as long as it's not excessively loose. Okay, so now we need to hook the top link up to the tractor. The easiest way to do that is perhaps to use the hydraulics to extend the ram. So the first thing we need to do is hook up the hoses. They have a supply hose and return hose. Of course, need to be into the correct ports. You can identify the supply hose by a sticker on the back of the valve plate here. The other one, of course, is a return hose. Just try and get the hoses running in a fashion where they won't run into things or get tangled in components. I'm just extending that to a length where you can get the pin through the top link. Very important that we use the highest hole possible on the top link where it connects to the tractor. Alright, so now the top link is connected. Just need to operate the fore-aft control a few times to bleed any air out of the system. And now it's quite safe to remove the lifting equipment off the top. Okay, so now the next thing is to hook up the downforce arms onto the tractor lower link arms. To control the downforce arms, we can use the hammer-on function to raise the arms up closer to the lower link arms on the tractor. Okay, so now we're going to insert the arms into the Y-frame. Also going to have to loosen this off slightly. Just enough so it'll swivel. And remove these bolts. So now we can raise this Y-frame up against the lower link arms. Just find a suitable position along here to mount them. It's preferred to have this as far forward as possible. If it has to actually be back here in more of a T shape rather than a Y, that's okay, but it's preferred if it can go more into a Y shape. When we put these plates onto the arms, keep the bolt in the lowest hole possible so as to take any of that slop out of that arm. You can place the nut on the bolt and tighten these up, but they can't be tightened up hard against the side of the arm. They need to be left loose so they'll float backwards and forwards. And we need to find a position where these will sit nicely, keep this fairly straight and symmetrical, and then install the locking plates back on here to stop the arms from swinging outwards. Right, just up a little bit. So when you're setting these arms to length, just need to make sure that they're the same distance out each side, just to keep everything in line. And use the same holes in here for your bolts. Up a bit. Okay, so now there's a couple of checks we need to make on these two cylinders to make sure that they're set at the right length. Top link cylinder, first we need to make sure the machine is vertical by the level on the side there. When the machine's vertical, we're looking for around about 4 inches or 100 millimetres of clear stroke here. We're somewhere around that. That gives you 4 inches tilt in either direction. If you haven't got this centralised, you may need to extend this knuckle here to gain the right length for your tractor. The next check is on the downforce cylinder. It's very important that we check that this ram is not going to run out of travel in either direction when the machine is picked up off the ground by the tractor's lower link arms. It's a 6-inch cylinder or 150mm cylinder. In any position the machine's in, lift it up off the ground or sitting on the ground, we don't want to see this rod closed all the way down, and we don't want to see it extended any more than about 5.5 inches. You can also use the fore after tilts to make sure that that ram rod is not going to run out of stroke. The last important test to do is that the machine's not going to crash into the roll bar or the cab when you're tilting forward. So if you operate the fore aft tilt, and it's also a good idea to pick the machine up off the ground and make sure it's not going to run into it as the lower link arms lift. So if you do have an issue with the mast getting too close to the cab, one easy way of fixing it is just put a stop on the position control so the arms won't lift up too high. Before we can use the machine now, very important that the draft control is also switched off, disabled. It cannot be operating while the post driver is on the tractor. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do with the setup procedure is just put the handles in a position where they're comfortable to work. Okay, so this is the setup that I prefer. That way I can use the hammer auger functions with one hand. I can use the tilt functions with one hand as well.